We begin tonight with Book 2, Chapter 1 of Morte d'Arthur. Now, for those of you who missed the previous episodes, what's happened is Arthur, the boy king, has finally come to be established as the rightful king of all England, which is fabulous. Merlin is his advisor. He's settled down in his castle, and within this time of peace, we start to see new knights emerging, new threats emerging. Arthur thinks at this point in time that he has managed to kill Mordred, the son that he had with his sister Morgan Le Fay. Little does Arthur know that Mordred survived Arthur's attempt to murder the child, and Mordred is now growing up, hidden from the eyes of Arthur, where one day he shall carry out the prophecy that Merlin laid down, that Mordred shall bring about the death of Arthur. And that isn't the only curse that we've got to deal with tonight, as we get into the tale of the knight with the two swords. After the death of Uther Pendragon reigned Arthur, the son, for which had great war in his days for to get all England into his hands. For there were many kings within the realm of England, and in Wales, Scotland, and Cornwall. And so it befell on a time when King Arthur was at London, there came a knight that had told the king tidings of how King Rience of North Wales had reared a great number of people, and were entered into the land, burning and slaying the king's true liege people. If this be true, said Arthur, it were great shame unto mine estate, but that he were mightily withstood. It is truth, said the knight, for I saw the host myself. Well, said the king, let make a cry that all the lords, knights, and gentlemen of arms should draw unto a castle called Camelot in those days. And there the king would make a council general and a great jousts. So when the king was come thither with all his baronage, and lodged as they seemed best, there was come a damsel which was sent on message from the great Lady Isle of Avalon. And when she came before King Arthur, she told him of where she came, and how she was sent a message for him from his causes. Then she let her mantle fall, that was richly furred, and then she was dressed with a noble sword, whereof the king had marvel and said, Damsel, for what cause are you dressed with that sword? It beseemeth you not. Now shall I tell you, said the damsel. This sword that I am wearing, it doth me great sorrow and cumbrance, for I may not be delivered of this sword, but by a knight that is a passing good man of his hands and of his deeds, and without villainy or treachery, and without treason. And if I may find such a knight that hath all these virtues, he may draw out this sword from its sheath. For I have been at King Rience's. It was told me that there were passing good knights there, and he and all his knights have tried it, and none can release it. This is a great marvel, said Arthur, if this is true. I will myself try to draw out the sword, not presuming upon myself that I am the best knight, but that I will begin to draw at your sword, in giving example to all the barons, and they shall try every each one after each other when I have tried it. Then Arthur took the sword by the sheath and by the girdle, and pulled at it eagerly. But the sword was not out. Sir, said the damsel, you need not pull half so hard, for he that shall pull it out shall do it with little might. You say well, said Arthur, Now try ye all my barons, but beware that ye be not defiled with shame, treachery, nor guile. Then it will not avail, said the damsel, for he must be a clean knight, without villainy, and of a gentle strain of father side and mother side. Most of all the barons of the Round Table that were there at that time tried all by row, but there none might speed. Wherefore the damsel made great sorrow out of measure, and said, Alas! I believed in this court there had been the best knights, without treachery or treason. By my faith, said Arthur, here are good knights, as I deem as any be in the world. But their grace is not to help you, wherefore I am displeased. So, a woman has come to the court of Arthur, claiming that she has a magic sword that can only be released from her by a man of true grace and virtue. Arthur himself has tried, and whereas once upon a time he so easily removed his sword from the stone, now he is powerless. Each one of his knights of the Round Table have tried, and each one has failed. Will we now find a knight who can release this sword from this poor woman and save her of her cursed existence? Chapter 2. How Balin, dressed like a poor knight, pulled out the sword, which afterwards was the cause of his death. Then fell it so that time there was a poor knight with King Arthur, that had been a prisoner with him for half a year and more, for the slaying of a knight that had been the cousin of Arthur. The name of this knight was called Balin, and by good means of the barons he was delivered out of prison, for he was a good man named of his body, and he was born in Northumberland. And so he went privily into the court and saw this adventure, whereof it raised his heart, and he would work it as the other knights did. For he was poor and poorly dressed, he put him not far in press. But in his heart he was fully assured to do as well, and if his grace happed him, as any knight there was. And as the damsel took her leave of Arthur and of all the barons, so departing this knight Balin called out to her and said, Damsel, I pray you of your courtesy, suffer me as well to try as these lords. Though that I be poorly clothed, in my heart meseemeth I am fully assured as some of these other, and meseemeth in my heart to speed right well. The damsel beheld the poor knight, and saw he was a likely man but for his poor dress, and she thought he should be of no worship without villainy or treachery. And then she said unto the knight, Sir, it needeth me not to put more pain or labour, for it seemeth not you to speed there, as others have failed. Ah, fair damsel, said Balin, worthiness and good tashes and good deeds are not only in dress, but in manhood, and worship is hidden within a man's person, and many a worshipful knight is not known unto all people, and therefore worship and hardiness is not in dress. My God, said the damsel, ye speak the truth, therefore ye shall try and do what ye may. Then Balin took the sword by the girdle and sheath, and drew it out easily. And when he looked on the sword, it pleaseth him much. Then had the king and all the barons great marvel that Balin had done that adventure, and many knights had great despite of Balin. Certainly, said the damsel, this is a passing good knight, and the best that ever I found, and most of worship without treason, treachery, or villainy, and many marvels shall he do. Now, gentle and courteous knight, give me the sword again. Nay, said Balin, for this sword will I keep but it be taken from me with force." "Well," said the damsel, "ye are not wise to keep the sword from me. For ye shall slay with the sword the best friend that ye have, and the man that ye love most in the world, and the sword shall be your destruction." "I shall take the adventure," said Balin, "that God will ordain me, but the sword ye shall not have at this time by the faith of my body." "Ye shall repent it within short time," said the damsel, "for I would have the sword more for your sake than mine. For I am passing heavy for your sake, for ye will not believe that sword will be your great sorrow." Anon after, Balin sent for his horse and armour, and so would depart from the court, and took his leave of King Arthur. "Nay," said the king, "I suppose ye will not depart so lightly from this fellowship. I suppose you are displeased that I have showed you unkindness. Blame me the less, for I was misinformed against you. But I believe that you had not been such a knight as you are, of worship and prowess. And if you will abide in this court among my fellowship, I shall so advance you as you shall be pleased." "God thank your highness," said Balin. "Your bounty and highness may no man praise half to the value. But at this time I must needs depart, beseeching you always of your good grace." "Truly," said the king, "I am right wroth for your departing, and I pray you, fair knight, that ye tarry not long, and ye shall be right welcome to me and to my barons, and I shall amend all amiss that I have done against you." "God thank your great lordship," said Balin, and therewith made him ready to depart. Then the most part of the Knights of the Round Table said that Balin did not this adventure all only by might, but by witchcraft as well. And there we have it. There we end tonight's tale, the first 2 chapters of the tale of the Knight with 2 Swords done. Balin, a prisoner within Arthur's keeping, a knight that Arthur had disregarded as being nothing, it turns out has a heart of pure virtue, with no treachery or malice in him, for easily he removed the sword that the damsel brought to the castle. But she has warned him. That sword shall be his destruction and the death of the man that he loves most in the world. Balin does not believe her. Balin has left the court. Balin is a law unto himself. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Karen. Tomorrow we begin the story again to find out what happens to Balin and how he deals with this curse. Absolutely, he's got a dodgy sword. 1 sword. He will get another. And tomorrow we shall find what happens when Merlin and the Lady of the Lake arrive at Camelot.